Let's begin this segment with our interview with Karoli Kuns, the managing director of crooksandliars.com. Now, joining us from beautiful Philadelphia, site of the Democratic National Convention, is Karoli Kuns, the managing editor of crooksandliars.com, which I know sounds like a very strange website, but trust me, it's probably one of the best progressive sites out there. Now, Karoli has a very distinctive voice. Often, even when I'm reading on the RSS feed, something just grabs me, and I don't even have to look. I know it's usually one of Karoli's articles. Karoli, welcome to the Three Muckrakers podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. And just one small correction, it's Karoli. So,
it's so funny. Before we started, I asked, how do I pronounce your name? And, of course, I didn't think of the Karoli. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. See, I had the Germanic pronunciation of the last name, but not of the first name. Anyways.
Yes.
Karoli, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, and hello.
Hello. Now, you've probably been to a number of these. How many conventions is this for you?
This is my second as an adult. I was a kid. I went with my mom, but as an adult, this is only my second one. I went to Charlotte in 2012, and I'm here in 2016. So, if you're not a delegate in general before about 2008, good luck getting in if you didn't work for a major media outlet. It's only in 2008 that they started letting in online outlets.
Right.
So here I am.
Well, but there's so many that are so good right now. So I would imagine that, I did happen to see, and I don't mean to follow the so good comment by looking at your photo of the back of Mr. Uyghur, however you pronounce his name. But it is growing in stature. So what's the difference between last week in Cleveland and this week in Philadelphia?
Night and day. I mean, let's just look at the roll call yesterday. I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of it, but it was pure joy. I mean, yes, there were Bernie supporters. They were joyfully supporting Bernie. Yes, there were Hillary supporters joyfully supporting Hillary. But everybody was happy. It was joyful, do you remember, I don't know if you saw any of the Republican roll call, but that had to be the most depressing roll call vote I've ever seen at any convention ever.
It was not only depressing, the reaction once he was over the top. The scoreboard was shining, and there was absolutely deathly silence. The music was louder than the delegates.
Right. And it was that was an amazing moment for me to watch, just how divided and how depressed that party was. And then you look at this side, and everybody was joyful, and everybody was on their feet when she won the nomination. On their feet. There was not a Bernie supporter sitting in the House that wasn't on their feet. That's not to say that there wasn't a handful of people that were snarly about it and went and, kept me from getting dinner last night because they invaded the press tent. But there were far less of them than the others, far less. I would say a handful of people showed up.
But if you listen to the mainstream media, they said there was this massive walkout. The hall emptied, but I always thought it was because, I watched that entire roll call vote. It went for almost 2 hours. I would think that people's bladders were near the bursting point and had to go out and get something to eat and something to, relieve themselves.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And the food lines are insane at this arena. Yeah. So if you want to get anything to eat, you have to plan to get in line right away on that break before they start up with the primetime stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sure, a lot of people left, but it wasn't a massive walkout. And the evidence of that is how many people were back in their seats when the primetime program started. And,
Well, the interesting thing is the primetime programs have been so good. I mean, you had, two fantastic keynotes. Last night was Bill Clinton. And then, of course, the night I think you were actually able to be in the hall was for Michelle Obama's speech. Now, I had goosebumps watching that online on a small iPad. What was it like to physically be in the hall for that?
It was amazing. It was totally, completely amazing. It was the electricity in the room and just the pure love for her. I mean, everybody, it doesn't matter if they were Bernie or Hillary or whoever, loves Michelle Obama. She was exactly the right messenger for her message. And she just delivered it. When she got to the line about living in a house built by slaves, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. There certainly wasn't up in our section.
Wow.
So, it was just because it's easy to, in all of the media maelstrom, it's easy to minimize or even forget how huge it is that for these last 8 years we've had this beautiful first family who are African American living in the White House that slaves built. I mean, it really is an amazing thing.
Yeah, they've often been, or at least he's often been called the Jackie Robinson, famous baseball player, being the one to break the color barrier in Major League Baseball of politics. And the pressure on all of them to never put a wrong foot forward. Do you see some of that in your travels?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do. But that's why I think they're such wonderful messengers, because they don't put wrong feet forward. It's been a remarkably scandal-free White House. I mean, the things that they come up with are invented right-wing things. Like Bill was saying, one's a cartoon and one's real.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And Bill Clinton, that was remarkable. Was there any talk in the hall? I mean, we happened to notice, at least over on this side of the pond, it was almost as if he had a bit of a palsy or something going on. Was that picked up there by anybody?
Well, I mean, I think all of us realize that he's aging, and he's on a vegan diet, and I think after his heart surgery, I think that he's just weaker than he was in the past. He's not the young man anymore. But he gives an amazing speech. I saw him in 2012 and thought he was incredible, and he was great last night. I mean, if there's nobody better, really, to tell you about Hillary Clinton than the man that's been with her for 40 years. So, yeah, well, it was.
It was interesting to watch his speech, and it was such a fine line he had to walk between, his own rather public behavior and what he was trying to do. How did you think he handled that?
I thought he walked the line really well, and honestly, the line that I thought spoke to that issue about his behavior was where he basically said, "She won't quit on you."
Right.
Right. And I've seen Hillary Clinton be criticized for her decision to work out her marriage and move forward. And that really annoys me. It was her choice. She had a choice. She could have gone either way, and the public would have been with her either way. And she made the harder choice, in my opinion, which was to work through it and to stay. And she should be given credit for that. I know back in the 90s when it happened, I was incredibly admiring of her strength in the face of that, just unending drumbeat of scandal. And, how she chose afterwards to move ahead with her life with him, not leave him behind.
Yeah, it truly is, and it's almost as if nobody ever gives him credit for, actually sitting and working it out, when you would think that would be something that the right wing would want to have rather than going through. Well, of course, they've nominated a man who has how many divorces now?
2 divorces, 3 marriages.
Yeah, but the look she gave him the other day, I'm not so sure that one's doing so well either.